SM here. I'm playing another 1,000-Year Storm deck for this Hunter X Bonder for both the top and the bottom nodes. This is for the top node, and Valdesor in our From the Ashes Slack was just asking about my variant and how it plays for this one. It's been a while since I've done a video with 1,000-Year Storm, so we're going to go ahead and show you this one. So the objectives for this were summon 5 or more creatures with the artifact or human subtype and kill 3 or more creatures during a single fight. I am using on this one Ralzeric just because I want to try to win as fast as possible. It's nice to be able to assemble the combo with this using top ability to fetch out your pieces. You can also use, and they get mana when you do that, you can also use the second ability as damage if you need it to pump up something like a Stitch, then give it a lot of mana, and then the ultimate with Major Flux of Genius. Well, they don't use it a lot. Sometimes if you're in bad shape, you can get out to the ultimate and then just use it to keep wiping opponent's board as needed as you go. But good mana gains too, +5 to white and, or excuse me, to blue and to red, and -2 to green. So this is a fairly standard version of my shell. Just to work through how the combo works, since it's been a while since we've done this video. 1,000-Year Storm is the main combo piece for this. It's an enchantment support for 14 with 4 shields. Whenever you cast a non-copy spell, reinforce this support. Then create X copies of that spell and give those copies X times 3 mana, where X is the number of support reinforcements. And then at the end of the turn, it loses all its reinforcements. So basically what we want to do with this deck is make a whole bunch of spells, get this shield count up, and then it will make copies of all those spells for free for us. And how we abuse that is Stitch in Time. The spell for 10 is gain 1 extra swap, but if there are 10 or more blue gems, gain 1 additional swap, and then if there are 10 or more red gems, gain 1 additional swap. So what we'll want to do with this deck is cast, usually I will get 2 spells which draw me cards, cast, so I'll have 1,000-Year Storm first, then 2 spells which draw you cards, and then Stitch in Time after that. By that time, Stitch in Time will have enough mana when you cast it to make copies, and then get you at least 2 free spells. I like to start to go off when I have a second Stitch in Time with some mana stored up in my hand, so then I can basically empty my hand out after that, except for 1 draw spell, and Stitch in Time to gain more extra swaps. So effectively what you're doing with this deck is just getting 1,000-Year Storm out and then drawing into more Stitch in Times to get additional extra swaps, and then basically you'll have infinite swaps at that point if you're playing the deck well and there's no crazy weird anomaly with drawing a ton of non-draw spells in a row. It's really consistent because you can find stuff you need. Beacon Bolt is our win condition, which we can use to deal damage equal to number of spells in our graveyard to any target. So we'll use this to eventually kill off our opponent, but we will also use it to just kill creatures on this objective, to the kill 3 or more creatures objective. A lot of the rest of the deck is just ways to draw. We have Finale of Revelation, which we can use to draw multiple spells with half mana on them, and it also has stored mana, so sometimes if we're fighting against something that wants to drain mana, we can put this in the top slot of our hand. That is an effective way to help fight mana drain. Also, this card exiles itself, so occasionally when you don't want to put cards into graveyard, this can be a card that you can utilize for that. Discovery Dispersal to surveil 2 and draw a card, and then Notion Rain to surveil 2, then draw 2 cards and you take 2 damage. These are just the best draw engines because it helps us filter away the cards we don't want to draw while filling up our graveyard to make our our Beacon Bolts bigger. Disperse the backside can be used as a recoil sort of effect to bounce something back to its opponent's hand untargeted, then make them discard a card. So we've got those. We have Talent of the Telepath, which lets you pick one of the next 3 cards from your library, fetch it, and gain 6 mana. If you don't want to draw, sometimes, if your opponent had something out like, Omnixilus Ultimate or something, sometimes you can use this to kind of cheat around not getting draw effects. Oftentimes we do want to draw with our Avaricious Dragon, which we'll see later, but this is just something you can use there. Also, the fact that it gives stuff mana can, get you into charged other spells you can cast later sometimes. Winged Words. Well, it says it cost 5 in this deck. Oftentimes it will cost 3, since we'll have a creature with flying Avaricious Dragon to draw 2 cards. Avaricious Dragon is in here as part of Summon Ghost's original shell with this. I do like this a lot just as a generic sort of non-human creature. We need to cast humans in this, but it's still in here just because whenever you draw a card, destroy 3 gems of your opponent's colors. It's an 8/8 for 15, which is a decent rate of flyer, but this can also act as pseudo support removal, especially if your opponent's in 2 or 3 colors, because it can start to match away gems on the board. That can also generate mana for you sometimes, but this will make the winged words cheaper. And then the human I've decided to go with on this deck, which is a little more what we're discussing this about, was Notion Thief. I was looking at probably either Agent of Treachery, which can steal opponent's creatures, or Notion Thief. I haven't used it too much before in this, and I think I might be using it a bit more even when I don't need to cast creatures, because this is a very interesting thing that can be utilized in a lot of different ways depending on what part of the game you're in and what you're looking to do. So Notion Thief is a 5/3 for 14 human rogue, so it will fulfill the human objective here. The first ability, whenever you exile this card from your hand, drain 3 mana from your hand and pick up to 4 cards from the top of your library. Then destroy those cards and draw a card. This effectively, as we've seen with a lot of this deck, it just wants to draw and filter cards around until it can assemble its combo pieces. So this first ability is something I hadn't really put a lot of stock in before, but it's actually perfect in this deck, because if we're wanting to run things like Discovery, which cost 4 to surveil 2 and then draw a card, Notion Thief is effectively an ability which says, use 3 mana and then surveil 4 and then draw a card. So that's even better than just a plain Discovery there, which is pretty cool. I had always thought of this card and liked it because of the second ability. Usually when I'm thinking about putting it in a deck is whenever your opponent would draw a card. If it's not the first card they drew that turn, move that card to your hand instead. So it's kind of like a Vanguard Narset sort of effect, which prevents combo decks or things that want to get a lot of extra draw and value, and it would let you draw instead. But that first ability is actually really, really strong if we're trying to be proactive in assembling the combo. But we can also have a reactive answer. And if Greg is playing this deck, having a built-in hate card like Notion Thief, which it probably would just cast, it doesn't really exile stuff from hand, then that's built in. So if our opponent is playing any sort of draw-based combo, this could really put a damper on that unless they've got some removal for it. So yeah, and it's decent stats too, 5/3, but yeah, that's the main reason why I chose that over Notion Thief, over whatever the 15 drop Agent of Treachery is. So yeah, so that's how the deck would run. So let's go ahead and give it a shot here and show what it's supposed to do. So again, summon 5 or more creatures, any of these subtypes, artifact or human, and then kill 3 or more creatures during a single fight. More recently, I have been using stuff like Bolus 3 to have a little more built-in removal, especially against creatures and supports. But this time it seemed like with so many people assembling some pretty cool synergistic combo things with creatures and tokens doing some crazy stuff, I wanted to make sure to get just to combo off as fast as I could. So let's look. Our opponent has a Johnny, Adversary of Tyrants, which gets 3 mana bonus to white, red, and green. His first creatures get pumped up +4/+4 for only 9. Then he can return creature from the graveyard to the battlefield, and then this is the thing that makes all the cat tokens. Okay, so we don't want to let him get to that. All right, So let's think about a plan here. We want to take red, if possible, away from our opponent, most likely. So we have a vertical red, which could go into a black match as well. We could get a horizontal red or horizontal blue. I think the red is what we're probably going to go for here. And let's think about how we want to do this. I think I want a Notion Thief first, most likely, so I'm going to leave a little mana in my hand. And we'll start digging next turn. Should have looked at the green that our opponent has. Ouch, that's actually a really big clock. I should have paid more attention to what my opponent was going to do. I'm recording this video and not thinking enough. It's hard to multitask sometimes, so let's see. Go ahead and dig. We do have a 1,000-year storm, which is great. We need that. So we'll go ahead and dig a little more. We can get 8 mana with the blue, which is good. Yeah, I think I want to do that and Talon instead of Finale first. I'm not sure exactly. It's an interesting thought and choice. Yeah, that thing's gonna put on some hurt if he gets some more creatures out, so I need to be careful. Great, there's a Stitch, which is exactly what we were looking for. I think with this one I will just take this Finale of Revelation to start to be ready to cast that. I'm thankful he didn't get another creature down to target with stuff, because that would be obnoxious. I do have 5 spells in my graveyard, so it might be worth just investing a turn just to kill their guy. I'm not exactly sure here. I normally just want to go off and combo very quickly, but he's got this thing which can pump their first and second creature's power, and I'm a bit worried about that. So I think I will just actually invest the time just to kill it right now. So again, my opponent has white, red, and green mana bonuses. So I probably want to take one of those away from them. I don't see anything that I can do to get huge mana gains. I could take this white and maybe get a drop to blue. That doesn't seem bad. There's a match 3 loyalty. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do that for now. Got a white match too, that's nice. Perfect. Do that, still get our +1 mana bonus. Great. And we have another Stitch. So we've got all the pieces we need to assemble for our combo, which is wonderful. How much loyalty are they up 216, so they're almost up to their ultimate. Luckily, I think we're going to be able to start going off maybe a little faster than them. So again, the order that I'm ultimately going to want to do with this is a Stitch in Time, 2 spells which draw me cards, and then, I'm sorry, a 1,000-Year Storm, 2 spells which draw me cards, then a Stitch in Time. And I have a second Stitch in Time which I want to charge up before I go off. So let's see, they can use that ultimate ability, or the second ability they have, to return that other creature from their graveyard to the battlefield, so that is good to know. I think I'm actually going to get rid of the Avaricious Dragon here. I'm going to save this to maybe use the second loyalty ability if I need it. So let's see, blue is going to get me quite a bit of mana, so I probably take that, making sure there's nothing better here that I can do. I don't see anything better. Great, so they're actually just looking like they're building up to the ultimate, which is fine with me. I'd rather just have a little extra time here. So let's see. No fantastic matches for me, but a white match is not the worst. A white match into a black match, actually, which is good. Maybe a red. Yeah. All right. Cool. So they did use that second ability, which I'm fine with. So now it looks like we're about to get to go off. So I'm probably going to wait one more turn here. Because I want to have 1,000-Year Storm charged, and then Discovery and Winged Words, then a Stitch in Time. But I like to, if I have time, to have an extra Stitch in Time almost completely charged up by the time I go off, just because I want to make sure that when I get 2 extra swaps minimum, sometimes 4 or 6, if you can set up the board with enough red or blue gems. But it's better to just be safe, and then after that point, use your draw to find one other draw spell, exile your hand to all but the draw spell, and then the other Stitch, and then just cast just the other Stitch, and you'll get that plus 5 copies of Stitch after that. So then you have quite a few extra turns to start going off, and it's a little less stressful if you'll be able to find the matches on the board or not to make that happen. So let's see, we have a white match. I think that's going to be our best thing that we can do. Actually want to freeze them because I'm not ready to go off this turn yet, because I think I'm only going to make 3 mana. Because white is better than green for me. Good. So now we should be able to go off. Let's look. I think we actually have enough blue mana to get extra swaps now too, which is wonderful. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 blue, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 red. So what we're going to do is take a red swap here, and then that will give us enough blue to get 2 extra swaps off of each Stitch. So again, the order that we're doing is 1,000-Year Storm, which will then start to get shields and then be able to let us cast the spells we're playing for free. Then Discovery to surveil and draw, so we want that one first because we want more of the copies of those to surveil. Note that 1,000-Year Storm does some weird stuff with certain cards and seems to get some extra shields sometimes. I'm not exactly sure how that works. And then Winged Words as our second spell to get shields up more before we cast Stitch. Then Stitch will have enough shields to be able to go through. So let's go off here. So again, we're going to take this red match. Our other stitch in hand is fully charged when we're ready for it, which is wonderful. So you see we got 3 copies of that, and normally wouldn't necessarily happen that way, but alright, we're going to get rid of Notion Thieves for now, because Notion Thief, while great at the beginning when we're looking for that, Surveil 4 draw a card effect, we want draw spells at the moment to make sure we can keep comboing off. And that's not a spell that's going to work with Thousand Year Storm. Great, we've got another stitch for the turn after when we're setting up. Also, when we're surveilling, we'll get to that a little more later. I was just making sure I find the pieces, but eventually we're going to want to get almost all spells in our hands or the creatures that we want to draw. We want to sometimes surveil away the spells so we can put more spells in the graveyard to make our stitches bigger, but we'll get to that as we continue on. So great, you saw we had 4 extra swaps again because of our blue spells. So what we're going to want to do is try to leave those blue on the board still, if possible. And so we can continue going off. We have enough mana, so I'm going to take this white swap at the bottom here to keep enough extra blue gems on the board so we still continue getting 2 swaps per thing. So we'll see we're up to 15 swaps now, so that's wonderful. So we're in pretty good shape now to be able to do a lot of different stuff here. Still going to try to keep the blues on the board if possible because I have no reason I don't need to. And I still got enough mana to cast Notion Rain, which is great. So we're just going to get extra swaps here. We've killed 1 creature, so we'll need to kill their king and queen pair, Annex and Siamede, I forget their exact name, and then one of our Notion Thieves that we cast on the board, and then we'll just be able to summon more Notion Thieves. So that's our general plan. I like to make sure I know the plan as I'm going through and don't accidentally, for instance, like kill our opponent before we get the objectives down. Just checking the objectives and keeping track of them is very important. Great, there is a Notion Thief there. I actually want all of these cards, but I think we have enough extra swaps built up now. I think I'd rather just make sure I can start to meet the objective quickly. So I'm already taking a long time on this video. So we will get 1 Notion Thief out. Great, there's another Notion Thief. I think I'm just going to be patient here. Okay, I'm going to pause the video.